Now, before we begin, I would like to point out that I'm a nobody. I'm just a small YouTube channel. I'm happy if I get 10,000 views per video. And with that in mind, you need to understand that I do not have any influence over the RNC and who they invite. And of course, I can't tone police people. I can barely convince people to click the subscribe button, let alone have the magical powers of mind controlling. But I do want to give my take as an Eastern European who has been looking at American politics for so long. And take into account that my observations are kind of different if they're coming from an American. Simply because sometimes if you're too close to an event, you don't get to see it clearly. So maybe a perspective that zoomed out would help that a little bit more. Now, regarding American culture, there are many positive aspects of it. I mean, you wouldn't be able to become the best nation in the world if there isn't something good ingrained in the culture. And I would wish that Europe would import some of those good American values. But unfortunately, just like any country, there are some negative values. Some of the things that are sticking regardless of the way the pendulum swings. And this has to do with purity spiraling. Purity spiraling in America is that if a person is not 100% pure, if they're not tailored exactly to the ideological frame of reference, then they are a horrible person. And not only that, you shouldn't associate with them because then you become a horrible person too by extension. This is not a right-wing or a left-wing thing. Progressives do it all the time, and right-wingers do it as well, and we're going to see how. And the problem is that you will never get to find a person that's 100% pure. So what you're going to get are liars, or people that fake it, or people that are hyper-concerned with optics. And this is why it was so easy for the left to destroy right-wingers, because all they had to do is to accuse them of racism, destroy their optics, and immediately everyone had to disassociate from them, because again, that's the puritanical way. So in this situation, you have Matt Walsh, and he is basically saying that Trump has just reached mythic status by defeating death and surviving an assassination attempt, and the GOP decides that the best next move is to have him sit and listen to a porn star talk about diversity. Brilliant move, thanks guys. So basically what's happening is this lady, and I genuinely didn't know who she was. Apparently she's a lady by the name of Amber Rose. She does OnlyFans. But the question is, like, why is she at the RNC, right? Like, is she leading the RNC? Like, is she in a leadership position? Well, no, apparently the reason they invited her is because she's got 25 million followers. Right? So the idea is by having this lady over there, those 25 million followers that like her would listen to her speech and they would be exposed to the RNC probably for the first time in their life. So the idea is to try and convince other people to get interested into conservative ideas. I don't think that they would have invited this lady if she didn't have 25 million followers. Right? Like, it's the usefulness of the person. Is the reason they're inviting her is not to promote her lifestyle. Like, at no point did I hear, hey, you know, like, this is a good career. No, like, they invited her to get more eyeballs on the event. And if you're looking at what Trump has been doing up until now, he has been trying to reach out to every single person that he can. Because even with all that happened, even with, the debate where he is on top of Biden in the polls, and then you have the failed assassination attempt, making him get even higher. But even with all of this, it's still not a guaranteed win. You don't know what will happen from today until the polls. You don't know how many people will vote Democrat. So he does need all the help. And this is why he actually went to the libertarians and promised them that he will free Ross Ulbricht. And this is what I find fascinating about American culture. It's like, I, from Eastern European, am absolutely baffled, right? So he goes and he promises he will free someone that facilitated drug trade. That actually destroyed the lives of people chemically. And the conservatives aren't really freaking out about that. I mean, sure, maybe they're grumbling a little bit, but like they don't seem to be outraged over that. But the moment you get like an OnlyFans person, that is when shit blows the fan. I mean, human sexuality, can you imagine? Right? No, seriously, like, the thing with Eastern Europe is that we do not care about sex so much, and Western Europe as well. Like, for instance, Emmanuel Macron is the only president in recent memory in France that doesn't have a mistress. Like before him, every single other president not only had the mistress, it was public knowledge. The press knew, no one cared. You have brothels in Europe. There are other countries in the world, like Japan, you have geishas, right? Like, human sexuality is not a mark of whether or not a nation is great. It is not a mark of whether or not the human happiness is higher or lower. And just because it exists, you don't have to partake into it. But like, for some reason in America, violence is fine. Drugs are acceptable, but like, if you try anything that has to do with human sexuality and it's in the public, it is shameful. Like, even the left and the right-wingers are ashamed of it. It's just like this very bizarre thing. But again, it is American culture. You gotta take it the way it is. You can't change it, right? Like, you're not going to be the one that changes culture overnight, especially when you notice when the left wing with the free the nipple gets in power, eventually they become puritanical as well. So, I do think that Matt Walsh is right, unfortunately. Like, if this was in Europe, no one would have given a shit, but it's in America. They care. Like, they would have polled higher if they got Pablo Escobar. If Pablo Escobar was coming and he was holding a speech at the RNC, it would have been more acceptable by Americans than if you have someone that does OnlyFans. It is what it is. And they genuinely do not care about the effectiveness of it. Like, even if the person has 25 million subscribers, they do not care, right? Even if all of those would have guaranteed vote for Trump, they would not care. And I think, like, the reason for it is that, as Matt Walsh points out, people do think that it's a miracle of God that Trump managed to survive his assassination, right? So, if that is the case, like, if you're a Christian and you unironically believe that Jesus himself, right, went down from the heavens and he pinched the bullet and swatted it away, then you believe that only with God's help can this be won. So if you upset God in any way, shape, or form, God will not help Trump anymore, right? Like, God went down, helped Trump, saw what the RNC is doing, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm out. Let Joe Biden win. So with that mindset, anything that goes against the neo-puritanical values is a sin. And if it's sinful, then you can't win like that. The problem is that if you have the mentality that the only way to be conservative is to be a Christian, you don't have the numbers. I'm sorry to say this, but like, look at the numbers of people in the US, look how they vote, and I don't think that you have the numbers at this point to just say, okay, well, you need to be, and not just any Christian, right? Not just any Christian, but like a Christian that is 100% against anything sexual, that is willing to constantly judge other people and moral busybody 24/7, and also doesn't associate with people that associate with other people that are from the adult industry. And when you start purity spiraling like that, you realize that, well, hold on a little bit, Trump is not a religious figure. Trump is a businessman, and he has associated himself with porn actresses before. He did the associations with people that did work in the adult industry. I don't know if he had sex out of wedlock, but I wouldn't be surprised. And to me, as a European, this doesn't matter. Because all that matters are the documents he's going to sign once he is in office. The policy, the economy, like that's what's important. But unfortunately, in America, you do have the Bill Clinton event where people really care about the personal life of the one they elect. And they need to make sure that they're 100% pure. Which means that they're going to constantly elect liars because you don't have a person that's 100% pure. Like, not in 2024. And this is how the right-wingers lost, by the way. Because all the left had to do is to find the people that aren't part of the 100% purity and form an alliance, the intersectionality alliance. And then they had the numbers to take over institutions, to take over elections. And the funny thing is, it's the same reason that the left is losing right now is also because of the purity spiraling. Because, like, oh, you can't be a leftist if you don't think that J.K. Rowling is evil. If you play the Hogwarts wizard game, you're not a leftist. If you don't think that, like Anna Kasparian comes out and she says, oh, this case that I saw in New York where a guy chopped a woman to death and the police were horrified by the amount of blood and they were saying that this place is not livable anymore. And then he gets released without bail a couple of days later and Anna Kasparian finds that horrifying and people say, well, you can't be a leftist now, Anna, right? It's the purity spiraling. It's on both sides. But the thing is, like, the left has been in power. They started purity spiraling to the point where now a coalition is formed against them. But it seems there are some right-wingers that do not want the coalition. They want to gatekeep. And my question is, like, do they have the numbers? I don't know. I genuinely don't know what will happen. But, like, this was obviously used in order to get more votes. To get, like, more people in the polls to vote right-wing. Like, if she has 25 million subscribers, that's obviously why she was there. And people like Matt Walsh hate it because they probably understand the culture. Now, I will give Matt Walsh this. There was another lady, a Sikh, and she had a religious Sikh ceremony at the RNC. Yeah, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. First of all, when you look at the Sikhs, like, where are the votes coming from? Well, they're probably living in New York. They're probably living in California. You're not going to win those states, but you are going to alienate, again, the people that unironically believe that Jesus is sitting on Trump's shoulder, and if you upset Jesus, he's going to leave Trump's shoulder, is going to allow Joe Biden to leave the election, right? Like, if you have people that believe in that level of mysticism, this type of symbolism where you bring a different religion at the RNC doesn't look good. Like, they're fine with the Sikhs having their own places of worship and their own temples and doing it there, but if you bring it over to the RNC, those people are likely to not go vote. And they will be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm not going to out, I'm not going to vote. So, this is my analysis with what happened with the RNC. I do think that it was a mistake when it came to that Sikh lady, because she also had the prayer before, a couple of years ago, and they also dropped in the polling. Like, I don't know why they keep allowing, like, I'm not saying that she shouldn't be invited, or she shouldn't be allowed to speak, like, that's fine. But, like, when you do the religious prayer, and you notice that you're dropping in polls once, why would you do it again? Like, it makes no sense from a PR perspective. This, I do think it's a good idea. Again, 25 million people, most of them most likely would never even consider listening to right-wing talking points, let alone vote. And unfortunately, yeah, like, Americans cannot separate social issues from economic issues. It's true. Like, there can be people that are right-wingers not because they care about social issues. They don't care about abortions, they don't care about gay marriages, they don't care about any of that, but they want to have guns, they want to have free speech, and they want to enjoy the economic benefits that come from right-wing politics. And the question is, like, should they be allowed to vote right-wing? And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that say no. And it's like, okay, well, they're voting left-wing then, or they're not voting at all, and the left gets more votes. And then you're wondering, oh, why is the world turning to shit? Why is it that it's never a right-winger that wins? Well, because you're not playing effectively. You're not actually looking at what you want to accomplish, which is how the left managed to win. Like the left, for instance, you had a lot of atheists. They couldn't tolerate Christians at all. But when they went to the business office, when they were actually involved in gaining power, they would pretend that they're Christians as well. They would pretend that they, well, yeah, Merry Christmas and everything, right? Until they managed to become in positions of leadership, and then Merry Christmas turned to Happy Holidays quite fast. Like, they were more pragmatic about it. More realpolitik, as the Germans like to say. Meanwhile, the right is, oh, this person isn't pure enough. Which is what the left is doing right now. Now, about the diversity thing that Matt Walsh is talking about, I actually listened to the speech. Her speech was, it doesn't matter if you're white, if you're black, Asian, or whatever you are, you can still be a right-winger, right? Like, basically she is saying, hey, you can still go vote, and you can still agree with the ideology of the right, regardless of what race you are. That is not the same DEI talking points as if she was going to say, yeah, white people have privilege, and you guys need to sit down while non-white people are talking, right? Like, there's a huge difference between these talking points. Now, if there are conservatives that think, oh, you can only be right-wing if you're a hardcore Christian and you're white, then do you even have the numbers? Again, it's the purity spiraling. It's the whole thing. And it only takes a little bit until they will say, well, even Trump isn't good enough. Because, like, he worked with people from the porn industry. He associated himself with them. And we need someone better. Right? And you get to see this on internet forums. In a microcosmos. Like, you get to see on small communities when you have, like, certain people that manage to accomplish something and it's going great, but then the purity spiraling kicks in. and you get like the people that are actually talented and, you know, they are good at what they're doing, but they're not perfect. Like, they have their flaws. But then they start insisting on the flaws, they start insisting on the optics. Eventually the talented people have to step down. They're replaced by less talented people until they get purity spiraled as well a couple of months or years later. And eventually the entire thing turns to shit. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.